Hello you lovely lot, my name is Max, welcome back to my YouTube channel and another Nottingham Forest match preview where today we are detailing Forest's upcoming home match against a much improved Leicester City team. If you're new around these parts, these videos go as follow, and we start by providing some context to the season thus far for our opposition before discussing their stats and numbers in a little bit more detail. We then follow that up by talking about their tactics and how they play on the field before following that up with a score line prediction. So if you do enjoy this kind of stuff, don't forget to drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel whilst you're down there and ring that notification bell so you don't miss a single video. With that being said, let's start talking about Brendan Rodgers and Leicester City. So as we usually do, we'll be starting by providing some context to our opposition, and for the first time this season we're talking about a team that we've actually already faced this season, a 4-0 drubbing at the hands of Leicester at the King Power Stadium back in October. And I've got to say, since that game, Leicester have improved actually quite a decent amount. They're in a much better position than they were at the time of that last match. And the most obvious improvement, especially if you're not that bothered about stats, is in their league positioning. They've gone from 20th at the time of the match preview for the reverse fixture to 13th at the time of recording, although just ahead of Forest on goal difference. And the results certainly support this improvement in their league positioning. Leicester have played 10 games since that drubbing of Forest back in October, having won 4, drawn 1 and lost 5 of those games, although 3 of those 5 losses have come in their last 5 league games. They're on a pretty poor run of form right now, which does suggest there could be the opportunity to get something pretty decent out of this game. So now we have some context on the season up to the halfway stage for Leicester. I thought now would be a really good opportunity to discuss the stats in a bit more detail. I think we're going to be continuing in this vein, comparing where Leicester are now to where they were back in October when they were bottom of the Premier League facing us at the King Power. Firstly, their attack has actually made some incremental and small but decent improvements over the course of the last 10 or 11 games. At the time of recording, they currently have the 10th best attack on goals scored. They had the 11th best attack on goals scored back in October, and their expected goals have increased from 17th to 15th in the Premier League, whilst also taking around the same shots as they were back in October, around 11 per 90 minutes. And this upturn in form has seen their finishing pretty decently increase as well. Their conversion rate's gone from 10% in the opening 7 or 8 games of the season to around 12% in the subsequent 10 or 11. A very decent upturn, a small improvement that's seeing them score more goals per game. In fact, if you look at expected goals per 90, they've gone from about 1.1 per 90 minutes to around 1.3. Again, not a massive amount, but a decent improvement in their attack. However, and in my opinion, I think if you flip things over and take a look at Leicester's defence, this is where the most tangible improvements have come for the Foxes in the last 3 months of the season. At the time of our previous meeting 3 months ago, Leicester had conceded the most goals in the Premier League, but now sit around 16th in the table for goals conceded. Still not really where they want to be for the calibre of team and squad that they have, but I've got to say it's a massive, massive improvement, and you've seen it on a game-by-game basis. They look much more solid defensively than they did in those opening half dozen games of the season, and this is whilst their expected goals per game against and their shots against per 90 have more or less stayed the same, more or less in a mid-table position. Their stats are sort of coming into a more even position. They've gone from conceding 1.8 expected goals per 90 to 1.4 expected goals per 90, a much more significant difference, I suppose, to their increase in attacking power. And it's brought their expected goals for and expected goals against much closer and to more or less even levels, levelling things out and making them a very solid defensive unit, and a team certainly on their way up the table that you would imagine will probably finish mid-table come the end of the season. However, it is worth noting that 40% of their expected goals tally against in the last 10 games have come in the previous 3 defeats that they've suffered in the league that have come in those last 5 games. Their defensive record in recent fixtures have not been very good since their return from the World Cup, and I've got to say that gives us a really good opportunity to potentially pick up a point or 3 in this match against a team quite badly out of form. Now, I would take a pretty decent bet as to why one of the reasons Leicester's defence has improved so significantly has been an improvement in the form of Danny Ward. His save percentage back in October was 40%, the by far worst in the Premier League Now it's at a very respectable 65%, around 2/3 of the shots he faces he is able to prevent going in. And whilst he's not the most confident keeper coming off his line, claiming crosses, playing out from the back, his improvement in his shot stopping ability by getting consistent minutes in this Leicester team have seen their defence improve quite significantly since the beginning of the season. I still think there's a big opportunity for them to improve that position. I was talking about it in the Southampton match, in the last match preview, that the likes of Jan Sommer, Martin Dubravka are available there, players who could either come in on loan or with just 6 months left on their contract. There's a good opportunity for them to improve in a position where they desperately need improvement. So yeah, overall Leicester have improved markedly in the 3 months since we last faced them and lost 4-0 at the King Power. Their league positioning has improved, their attack has improved, and their defence has probably been the most significant improvement. They are by far a much more solid unit. Not the best, and certainly not where they were 3 or 4 years ago when they were consistently finishing in the Europa League places, but certainly a team that you can look at as making improvements under Brendan Rodgers at the moment. So that being said, we're now going to move into the tactics section of this video, and I will caveat this by saying we've done a much more detailed tactical breakdown of Leicester City in the previous match preview in the reverse fixture earlier this season. So I will leave that up in the icon above. You can go check that out. We talk about Leicester's tactics in a little bit more detail. Today we're more going to be focusing on what Forest can do to prevent them from being so dangerous like they were in the reverse fixture. So without any further ado, let's move into that. Okay, so we are in the tactical section of this video. As you can see on the board, we've got Leicester in the blue, Forest in the red, and Leicester shaping up in that 4-2-3-1, 4-1-4-1 shape that I think we quite heavily associate with this Leicester team, and they've certainly stuck to this shape a lot more in the recent matches that they've played. At the beginning of the season, they chopped and changed due to personnel issues, playing 3 at the back a lot more often. Since that win against Forest, they've only played 3 at the back once in a loss to Man City, so they've definitely seemed to have settled back into the shape that brought them so much success in the previous 3 or 4 seasons, that won them an FA Cup, got them deep runs in Europe, and made them a much more consistent threat in the Premier League. Another one of the market improvements in this Leicester City team has been their openness to being a little bit more pragmatic in their matches. In the opening games of the season, they were averaging around 54% possession in their matches, something we definitely associate with the very best of this Leicester team. But in the subsequent dozen or so games they've played, they've averaged around 49% possession. They've dropped off in terms of ball retention and have looked to become a lot more of a team that can soak up pressure and break out on the counter-attack. And I think they do this really well. They've got a lot of pace in that front line, a lot of quality in the final third when they're all clicking on the same page. And in the reverse fixture against Forest 3 months ago, I thought they did this to really good effect, being very good at stretching the opposition into these channels, playing balls into the wide areas, stretching what at the time was quite an immobile defence. I think it was Cook and McKenna who were playing in the back line for us at the time, and they were very much being dragged out of position, and that opened up a lot of space in this area of the pitch around the D of the box, in what we call zone 14, probably the most dangerous zone outside of the box, just in front of the goal. And 3 of their 4 goals did come from this area in the pitch. The free kick, the 2 shots from outside the box, all came in that sort of area of the pitch and from stretching the Forest team and creating pockets of space in there. And I think that was probably one of my biggest complaints 3 months ago with this Forest team, was our predication to giving up so much space in that area of the pitch. We need to be a lot more compact in that zone, getting a lot less space between lines of the team, looking to be in a more sort of low to mid block rather than a mid block, trying to compress the space as much as possible. So players like Maddison, Harvey Barnes, Yuri Tielemans, they find it really hard to occupy pockets of space in and around zone 14 of the pitch, that dangerous area just outside the box we were mentioning earlier, so that they are a lot less dangerous creatively and a lot less of a threat from outside the box, because that is one of the things Leicester have. I don't know the exact numbers, but I imagine they're probably one of the highest scoring teams from outside the box this season. Maddison, fantastic from outside the box. Tielemans has got a couple of really good goals from outside the box as well, and generally find themselves in really good positions in zone 14, and that's the space we really need to compress and prevent them from getting time in. Now, much has been made of the recent performances of Dean Henderson, very rightly so. He was fantastic in the penalty shootout against Wolves earlier in the week, but what I will say is that he was pretty poor against Leicester in this reverse fixture. I think for at least 2 of those goals he could have done a much better job. I think the free kick he also maybe could have done a bit better, and 2 To be fair, the goal that sort of deflected off McKenna, couldn't really do too much about it, but he did commit quite early. And I think in general, it was probably one of his worst games in a Forest shirt in this loan stint. I think he'll be really looking to have an improved performance, and I think the form and the confidence he's going into this game with will certainly help with that. Now, when Forest did get chances, they were when Leicester were really squeezing up that back line. Historically, Leicester have been a team that really like to compress themselves and play as far up the pitch as they can with quite a high line, and we were very good at getting Taiwo off the shoulder of their last man, playing these balls through. Morgan Gibbs-White gave him a really good opportunity quite early in that game where he was played off the shoulder of, I think, Wout Fages in the defence, found himself one-on-one and was unlucky not to finish it. It came off the post, I believe. And in general, I think that we really need to be looking at playing off the shoulder of this Leicester defence. Danny Ward isn't a keeper who's particularly confident coming off his line and sweeping in and around his back line. The back line does like to play quite a high line, and in general, they're not the most mobile defence in the world, and we've got quite a lot of pace in that front line. If Taiwo plays, he's very mobile. Brennan's absolutely rapid. Even Gibbs-White can get in behind if needed, and I do think that's a really good opportunity to punish Leicester with the space they could leave in behind. I think that's probably our best avenue of attack. It has been this season. I think it will continue to be so against Leicester. So overall, picking a scoreline and guessing a scoreline for this match has been pretty difficult. Whilst I think we are capable of beating this Leicester team, they aren't in the best form over the course of their most recent fixtures. We have shown that in front of goal, we are still struggling. Defensively, we have been really good actually. Since November, I think we've conceded like the 5th or 6th fewest goals in the Premier League. We're on a really good run of form defensively. It's just finding more goals in the final third. And I do think this will be maybe a difficult test for us. Leicester are a team defensively improving. So I'm going to go for a score draw, a 1-1 or a 2-2 result for Forest. I don't think we'll quite get the 3 points, but I think we will give ourselves a good account and probably pick up a point at the City Ground, which will be really good to get. And to be fair, when you're at the City Ground, anything can happen. We could pull off a result like we did against Liverpool and show ourselves to be a really solid team. So that's the scoreline I'm going for, probably a score draw, but let me know your one in the comment section down below. And whilst you're down there, don't forget to drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell so you don't miss a single video. With that being said, enjoy the game if you're going Reds. I will catch you later.